Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord and making headlines. If you think deviant youth only come from certain communities in Barbados, think again. A primary school closed as the Education Ministry addresses environmental and other concerns. A call for a bold cultural shift to advance gender equality and women's rights. And in sports, National Sports Personality of the Year, Zane Maloney, heading to France this season.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
And in our top story, Barbadians have a big misconception of where the majority of the country's troubled youth are coming from. Principal of the Government Industrial School, Erwin Leacock, stressed this point as he delivered a lecture entitled Youth Violence, the Barbadian Experience, last evening at the Wim Playing Field in St. Peter. Shane Jones has more.
The lecture was one of the eagerly anticipated community events during St. Peter's leg of We Gathering celebrations, and scores of Barbadians came out despite a persistent drizzle. Erwin Leacock says he realized many years ago that he was most comfortable when interacting and assisting troubled youth. He says people must stop pointing fingers because, despite what they believe, troubled young people exist in every single family unit in Barbados without exception.
We are talking about children who are experiencing challenges, who are misbehaving, and you can characterize it as hard-aged children. Every single household in Barbados, every single extended family can point to some experience they've had with adolescents who were transitioning into adulthood.
The principal of the school that prides itself on addressing behavior and offers emotional and psychological support to youth says Barbadians need to stop focusing on what troubled youth are doing, but examine why they're doing it. He says sometimes there are absolutely horrifying reasons.
They were told the only reason that you are alive is because they didn't have the $500. The only reason that you are alive is because the condom burst.
Mr. Leacock offered a way for Barbadians to assist the youth.
As a community, we are struggling to give young people some hope by once in a while pointing out what is good with you.
Over the weekend, St. Peter will host a farmers market and brunch among other events. Shane Jones, CBC News.
The Vauxhall Primary School has been temporarily closed as the Education Ministry works to resolve a number of issues plaguing that institution. We get the details in this report from Aaliyah Briggs.
The Vauxhall Primary School will be closed for the rest of the week. The closure comes after the alarm was raised by parents and teachers about a number of potential health hazards on the compound. Rodents, mold, unsanitary bathrooms, and inadequate garbage receptacles are just a few of the problems identified as personnel from the Education Ministry and a group of concerned parents toured the Christchurch school earlier today. According to Education Minister Santia Bradshaw, steps are being taken to eliminate potential hazards.
The school has the rodent problem in the area, obviously around the garbage receptacle. The rodents will find places where there are spaces for them to breed, and we accept that underneath some of the prefab buildings, you have a lot of garbage that is blowing under the building. So we want to be able to pull out a lot of the garbage and then find a sealing material, perhaps through wire, to be able to seal the areas to prevent additional garbage from coming on underneath the building, and certainly creating a breeding ground for the rats.
She also says contractors will be deployed to improve the school's bathroom facilities. The minister adds that a portion of the upcoming fiscal budget will be allocated to address all outstanding issues.
In no way would the ministry trivialize the issues of rodents or bathrooms or anything of that nature. I think we are agreed that we have to approach it with priorities in mind, given limited resources. But the good thing is that the next financial year we do have Vauxhall Primary budgeted within the finances to be able to address a number of the problems. But this school is old. There are It's not the worst that I have seen, certainly, but in terms of being able to address a lot of the low-hanging fruit, we're going to start that exercise, certainly. Well, we're starting today, but we're also starting by closing the school tomorrow and Friday to be able to get all of the resources in.
While she commends the ministry's speedy response, parent Maria Edie believes the school is in dire need of a complete renovation.
She came promptly, and we're glad that she did, but things still need to be done. We know that everything can't be done today, but at least something needs to be started.
What would you like to see be done?
A whole revamp. A whole revamp. If not a whole revamp, the rodents need to go, you know, but closing the school, they might not want to do that, but that might be the best option.
The Vauxhall Primary School will undergo repairs in the coming days and is expected to reopen on Monday. Aaliyah Briggs, CBC News.
A proposal for the development and enactment of NGO legislation could soon be before Cabinet. The latest update on efforts to bring greater transparency and accountability to the non-governmental organization sector comes from Minister of Labour and Social Partnership Relations Colin Jordan. He says the only outstanding aspect of the draft Cabinet paper is an incentive framework which deals with financial matters.
The intention is to have a registry of third sector organizations. In that, so third sector, civil society, faith-based, community-based organizations, NGOs, whatever the nomenclature that we use, a register of those organizations. We will be insisting on good governance, demonstrated by some kind of organizational structure, also financial statements on an annual basis.
Minister Jordan also reveals that a mechanism will be put in place to facilitate appeals if an organization is to be taken off the registry. He was speaking during a panel discussion during a closeout workshop for a capacity building project for NGOs hosted by the United States Agency for International Development. Nicole Jacobs, the project manager of RTI International, the facilitators of the project, says 164 NGOs spanning sectors such as youth, HIV and AIDS, and the environment have benefited from support over the past 2.5 years.
A huge amount of our support has been through mentoring and coaching, customized technical assistance, and in addition to that, we've had 86 scholarships that we've provided to NGOs so that they've been able to enroll and participate in the nonprofit management course offered by University of West Indies Open Campus that was sponsored by the project. So this was tailored specifically to the needs of NGOs and how they could improve their work.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to travel to Barbados to meet with Caribbean community leaders. Prime Minister Trudeau will participate in the Conference of the Heads of Government of CARICOM to build even stronger ties with the region. He will be received by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, the current chair of CARICOM and host of this meeting. While in Barbados, the Canadian leader will participate in group discussions and bilateral meetings with CARICOM leaders. Coming up after the break, the Ministry of Health reveals just how many people are quarantined in Barbados due to the coronavirus. We'll also hear that gender equality and women's rights are in need of a cultural shift. A suggestion that a bold cultural shift is needed to further advance gender equality and women's rights in Barbados and across the region. This is according to the Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Cynthia Ford. She spoke as regional and international stakeholders met at the Barbados Hilton to build a coordinated position on Caribbean negotiations in next month's Commission on the Status of Women.
There have indeed been some retrograde steps taken during that period that we never contemplated. These unfolding actions of discrimination and stigma, as well as deprivation of women and girls, have really been a terrible backlash in our hard-fought battles. But we must not renege on our responsibilities and our commitments, and we must continue to make the strides.
This year's conference marks the 25th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women, Global policymakers will assess current challenges affecting achievement of gender equality. CARICOM Gender and Development Deputy Program Manager Anne-Marie Williams says the forum focuses on 12 key areas and gives stakeholders the tools to negotiate on the world stage.
While we've made strides as a region, we've had some among the slippages. 25 years on, though, lots of work remains to be done, and that seems to be a prevailing theme since the speakers started this morning. But truly, we've got lots of work to do, particularly in areas of violence against women. I want to say that Spotlight brings hope.
Health authorities in Barbados are currently monitoring 13 persons who are quarantined in their homes after arriving from regions impacted by the novel coronavirus. Stats provided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness indicate that 44 people entering Barbados have been screened since the outbreak of the highly contagious respiratory illness in Wuhan, China last December. While 13 remain in quarantine, others have completed their 14 days of quarantine or have departed the island, including some who were in transit. Meanwhile, the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab now has the capacity to conduct definitive testing for the coronavirus after receiving testing kits and technical assistance from the Pan American Health Organization. So far, all persons in quarantine have remained asymptomatic, except one person who developed a fever. Public health personnel visited the patient and took a sample which was tested by the lab and proved to be negative for that virus. The ministry has activated its Emergency Operations Center, which meets daily to collate all available information and devise responses to the public health challenges. Well, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Warren Smith, has noted the increasing number of countries adjusting their legislation to accommodate some form of a medicinal marijuana-related industry. He says he believes there are opportunities to be derived in the future.
I believe that it's a legitimate industry for our countries to pursue as long as it remains within the law. And that is the position that I think that we would want to take at the Caribbean Development Bank. As to whether we finance the development of that industry or not, who knows? It could be that it could be through the small business sector.
He says regional governments must be very wary of who ultimately benefits from such industries.
My concern is that the legitimization of this product should not put our countries in a situation where that new area of production becomes dominated by foreign interests, and our people, especially our small people, do not benefit from this new industry. That, I think, is something that we need to keep a very, very close eye on. We need to be...
A strong defense of government's national cleanup program. It comes from Minister of the Environment and National Beautification Trevor Prescott, who says it has not only reduced unemployment, but the island is cleaner as a result. Comparing it to a similar initiative under the previous administration, Minister Prescott says government's program is being conducted in a just manner, noting the money is being well spent. The minister was speaking during debate on a resolution to supplement the estimates to the tune of just over $3,565,000. Some $748,800 is being made available for that cleanup program.
This is the expenditure for a number of workers that we brought on a month ago, and which we intend to continue the service at the NCC. This is a national cleanup program, and we have touched every strategic area across Barbados. Because of the challenges in relation to financial constraints, the workers will remain employed until the end of the financial year, and beyond.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley, while welcoming that cleanup effort, Queried if government is motivated by having a clean country or other factors, Bishop Atherley cautioned government not to pat itself on the back too soon.
I would like to think that government is not simply motivated by the thought that we are into the year of regathering, but that government is motivated by the view that we need to have a clean environment in the interest of the health of our own people, in the interest of the health of those who come to visit with us or to reside temporarily here, and in the interest of having the country remain a jurisdiction that is attractive and appealing to potential investors. So I believe that this is the type of thinking that should drive efforts like this.
A minor earthquake occurred south of Barbados earlier today. Now, according to the UWI Seismic Research Center, the magnitude 4.4 quake, which struck at about 8 minutes to 9 this morning, was located at 12.75 degrees north, 59.61 degrees west at a depth of 50 kilometers. People commenting on the Seismic Research Center's Facebook page report feeling the effects in Lower Colomaroc, Broad Street, and in Green Hall. Still to come, a daring daylight robbery turns into a hostage situation over in the Bahamas. Then a bit later in sports, the Windies women warm up for their ICC World Cup fixture with a win. But of course, before we get there, here is that tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Marijuana smoke deposits 4 times more tar in the lungs and contains 50% to 70% more cancer-causing substances than tobacco smoke does. This tip is brought to you in association with the National Council on Substance Abuse, promoting drug awareness.